Welcome back to the cult. I'm Saucebreaker. With how story-heavy Cult of the Lamb is once you start playing it, it's no wonder many are interested in the backstory of the game, or should I say, lore of the game? Like, how did the Lamb end up in this situation? Or what happened to the bishops? And with the newly added ancient tablets, we will get a better look as to what has happened. So in this video, I will be force-feeding you the lore of Cult of the Lamb and the ancient tablets so I can paint you a picture of what has happened. One last thing, with the release of the Unholy Alliance, the GOAT was recently revealed, but just spoiler, since we don't have the update, not much really is known about him, nor does he really have an effect on the main lore as of today that we know of. Let's get into it though. Long ago, the lands of the Old Faith were not ruled by the 4 bishops, but instead by hundreds of gods. The first gods were once well known and will give crowns to whoever they see as worthy. It is unknown what happened to the first gods, but all that is remained of them was their weapons, their tears, their ichor. Even Harrow does not know what has happened to them. Hatched under the first gods, the feathered ones, Clannech, Clugadi, and Clemac. They are the keepers of the godly tools, one of fate, one of weapons, and one of maybe crowns. Not sure, they didn't finish the instruction book here, but by their nature, they never seek godly power. However, Clemac eventually went mad and mutated, not to the surprise of her siblings, as Clannech foresaw her descent into madness. Things soon began to change. Gods began to come and go, crowns being found, crowns being lost. Soon 5 crowns were discovered by 5 siblings, which would seal the fates of many gods: Leshli, Heket, Calamar, Shamora, and Narinder. Shamora was the oldest, Calamar was the second born, then Narinder, Heket, and finally Leshli. Many gods fell, many crowns disappeared, and many followers soon joined the Old Faith. The remaining gods were either killed or they renounced their power before the bishops. Thus, the Old Faith became the dominant religion of the lands, and there were no more gods to challenge them. While Narinder represented the only constant, he was only one of 5 who was never allowed to bring forth the opposite of his domain. Calamar's followers prayed for health and long lives, while Heket's followers prayed for a bountiful feast and good harvest. Leshli's followers prayed for safety, and Shamora's followers prayed for knowledge. These were all things that the bishops could give, despite Leshli, Heket, Calamar, and Shamora being the opposites of these concepts. Chaos, famine, sickness, and war. They had flexibility. Narinder wanted to have the power over the opposite of death, life. The bishops, fearing Narinder and his power, ambushed their brother to seal him away. Hapless Leshli, the youngest of 5, 'tis was his eyes he'd lost. Temperamental Heket, with her throat cut neat. Cowardly Calamar's ears torn from his head. And Shamora, once the brightest of 5, till their skull was split. See no evil, speak not, hear nothing, and think none. The one who waits made it so. But they won the battle and created 4 change, each bound to one of their lives, and changed Narinder, sealing him in his realm for thousands of years at a great cost. They were godly wounds inflicted by the strongest among them, and so they would never heal. The bishops' crowns and powers accumulated for their injuries, but no amount of power could ever clear Shamora's clever mind, and none of the bishops were ever the same again. And so the balance of power was shifted, with Shamora resting, Heket leading her 2 brothers. Leshli was left desperate to prove his worth. Calamar's paranoia, especially of the Red Crowns and his promise bearer, multiplied tenfold, and Heket was left full wrath for her suffering of the Red Crown, caused her family, and the 4 were left in pain. At some point, Shamora asked Furnius for her 2 sons, Am and Ba, who followed Narinder faithfully. However, the bishops received a prophecy that a lamb would be the one who would free Narinder and kill them all. The bishops began sacrificing all the lambs in the land. Despite being in captivity, the one who waits began sending vessels with the Red Crown to kill the bishops and start a new cult in his name. However, none of them could even kill a single bishop. The last and only living of these ineffective vessels was Radau, who was kept alive after the Red Crown was taken from him. Radau, commanded by the One Who Waits, goes deep into the lands of the Old Faith where a lamb is going to be sacrificed. The bishops almost had succeeded in their quest to slaughter all lambs, with there being only one lamb left to be sacrificed. And that is the basics of the backstory of the game. I know, crazy stuff, but with Sins of the Flesh, they added ancient tablets, which deepens the lore. And now we're gonna read those tablets in order. I was only meant to survive, and yet she, feathered, hand of a great one gone, has seen me to be worthy. Oh, the first gods guide me. I devote myself to you, holy, body and soul. I will strike down destined. I will call doubt. I will nourish this crown and be worthy of its power. In blood, I swear. Great ones, I find fragments of your power across the vast lands. The blades once gripped by your mighty fists. The tears falling from all your seeing eyes. The ichor that runs through the very veins of earth. I seek your understanding. I prostrate myself before you. I vow that those who do not serve in their life will serve with death instead. Simple things. Silly, almost. Creatures seek protection in my shadow. Pour faith into my soul, and by their devotion, I am changed. I was like them once. I used to think them strange, these three feathered beasts, unworn, unweathered by the passage of time, to be keepers of godly tools, and yet to not be tempted to godliness themselves. Do they not hunger as we do? Now, unwise in age, I understand hatch beneath the first, crave no power, seek no fulfillment. For it's not in their nature, but it is by nature, that we must abide. My pilgrimage has led me thus, to the caverns of a godly skull, remnants of a great one now decaying into the earth. The air here smells sweet, the soil rich and dark. I hear whispers, I feel watched, yet there is naught around. Just these strange small mushrooms, their spots almost like eyes, but that's impossible. I had not seen her in a dozen years, perhaps a score, perhaps 100. She has changed, alarmingly so, the mutation of her body not compared to the madness taking root in her mind. Her kin were indifferent. 'Tis was foreseen, the card writer said. I asked, what of her duty? What of the crowns? What of her very nature? And the smith answered, it is lost. I have lived long enough, too long for a simple memory, and so I must continue chronicle these histories. Followers rise, bloom, and die, like so much clover on the ground, and my troublesome peers, gods by a right no longer divide, rise and fall like tides cut free from the moon. One came to my temple, young, ambitious, and thirsty for war. I dismissed them. I will not abide such blasphemy. Whispers reach my temple, gods fallen, shrines crumpled, followers taken, and crowns simply gone. Our numbers begin to dwindle. I do not fear. I will swing my righteous axe, draw my zealous sword, and know that I walk with the blessing of my first at my brow. Heresy shall not be tolerated in these lands. Ignia could not be found, and the leaves changed no more. 'Tis clear now that none shall survive the purging. The owl has chosen a different tack, one I cannot condone, for regardless of what they threaten, I shall never relinquish my beliefs. They call me the greatest of fanatics, and per se this is true, for I would rather perish than sacrifice my devotion. Great ones, I am yours eternally. He of havoc, he of blight, she of hunger, they of might. He that lays a soul to rest, 5 remain of hundreds blessed. And those are all 10 ancient tablets. So, what could this mean? Getting the simple stuff out the way, it's clear that in Tablet 6, it mentions card reader and smith. which you can clearly pinpoint as Claudek and Kudai. In that same text, it also mentions someone who has lost their mind, which could be Klemek as well. In addition to these names, we also know from the basic lore that these characters were labeled as the Feathered Ones, so we can also name that it's most likely Klemek in Tablet 1 that's being referred to as well. And then moving on to Tablet 7, it mentions a young god, ambitious and thirsty for war. And since this person refers to this god as them, we can most likely pinpoint that pronoun as referring to Shamura, since they are also the bishop of war. Tablet 2 also talks about blades once gripped by the gods left scattered through the lands. The Silk Cradle also has swords embedded in its ground, so it doesn't necessarily mean that these blades belong to the gods, but it's not that big of a leap to assume not. So that leaves us with one question. Who wrote these tablets? Based on what they wrote, it's clear that they were a cult leader of sorts, specifically for the old gods. Not only that, but we also know that they also used Zealous Sword and Righteous Axe, which are weapons that we only know as of right now that are linked with the Red Crown. You could make an argument that the GOAT could potentially be the writer of this, however we don't know exactly if he's an alternate timeline or if he has any kind of relation to this, as this came before the GOAT was even released. It could be that all the crowns have the potential to make Zealous or Righteous Axe weapons, just like the Red Crown, but we haven't seen that represented in any kind of way, shape, or form. So that means that we really only know that this person was a cult leader with a crown devoted to the old gods. So I'm not entirely sure who could fit this criteria. Could be just an unnamed leader, but if you have any theories or ideas, let me know in the comments. And remember to join the cult. Until then, I'll see you guys next time.